All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, great to be here.
Today I'm really excited about this one because this is kind of hits close to home
Oh, yeah.
for me. We're gonna be talking about Denny's.
Oh, Denny's. Yeah.
Denny's. And this is an interesting one because
Mm.
I grew up with Denny's being like a big part of my life. Going out to eat and
Yeah, late night.
late night stuff, and
Mm.
I have so many memories
Oh, absolutely.
of this
Yeah.
place. But things change.
They do.
And recently, there's been a lot of news about Denny's, and
Yeah.
we've been reading this article from Restaurant Business Online. It's called "Denny's to Close 150 Restaurants by End of 2025,"
Okay.
and it's a really interesting look at what's going on with this chain
Yeah.
and what it might tell us about the larger restaurant industry as a whole.
Exactly.
So Denny's is closing 150 locations
Wow.
by the end of 2025,
That's a lot.
and that's about 10% of its total restaurants.
Wow. 10%.
Yeah, and what's really crazy is that half of those closures are happening this year.
Oh, wow.
So this is like an immediate thing.
This isn't like they're, slowly kind of winding things down. This is a pretty big,
Yeah.
pretty rapid shift.
Yeah. So what's going on here? What's happening?
Well, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because they're closing 10% of their restaurants.
Yeah.
And a good chunk of those are happening right now. So, when we see big chains making these sorts of decisions,
Yeah.
it's never just like one thing.
Right.
There's always a lot of factors at play.
Yeah. And I mean, according to the article and according to Denny's themselves,
Yeah.
they are citing a few reasons. One of the things they're saying is that some of these locations are just old.
Right.
They're not in ideal locations anymore.
Makes sense.
And others have been negatively impacted by pandemic-era traffic shifts that haven't really recovered.
Yeah. And I think that's a pretty common issue that we're seeing with a lot of these more established brands, right?
Yeah.
Like they built these locations maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago,
Right.
and the world has changed.
Yeah, consumer habits have changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like how people move around,
Yeah, where they live, where they work.
where they want to eat.
Exactly. And if you're not adapting to those shifts, you're going to get left behind.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, the location and the age of the building.
Right.
They're also reporting some deeper financial troubles.
Yeah.
I mean, the article mentions that they've had 5 straight quarters of declining same-store sales, which is down 8% year over year.
That's a worrying trend.
Yeah, it is. And they're basically blaming this on the fact that restaurant inflation is outpacing grocery prices.
Right.
So it's just way more expensive to go out to
Yeah.
eat now.
I mean, we're all seeing that, right?
We are.
In our own lives.
Yeah.
It's like,
You go to the grocery store
yeah, you go to the grocery store.
and you're like, oh my gosh,
It's expensive.
this is expensive.
Yeah.
And then you go to a restaurant.
And it's double the price.
Yeah, and so it's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe I'll just cook at home.
Yeah, exactly. And that trend is definitely affecting the
Yeah.
entire restaurant industry,
Yeah.
but it seems like it's hitting these casual dining places.
Yeah.
Like Denny's especially hard.
Yeah, and the article actually contrasts Denny's with IHOP,
Okay.
which is interesting because
Yeah.
they're both kind of in that same
Same space.
diner space, right?
Yeah.
But IHOP, their same-store sales are relatively flat.
Huh. Interesting.
So they're not seeing that same level of decline.
So they're doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, so what is it about Denny's
Yeah.
that's making them struggle more than some of their competitors?
I mean, I think it's not just the rising costs, right? It's also the fact that they're facing all this competition from these fast casual chains like a Chipotle or a Panera Bread. And then on the other end, you have these value-driven fast food giants
Right.
like McDonald's or Burger King.
Yeah, they're getting squeezed from both sides.
They're getting squeezed, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have this
Yeah.
upper tier of fast casual
Yeah.
that's really appealing to people who want maybe something a little bit healthier, a little bit more modern, a little bit more, on trend.
Yeah.
And then on the lower end, you have the value players who are just, offering really cheap food.
Yeah.
And Denny's is kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah, and they've tried to adapt, right? They've tried different things.
Yeah, they've tried to appeal to different demographics.
Yeah.
Remember a few years back when they tried to introduce those more upscale craft burgers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that didn't really work out.
No, their
well.
core customer is not going to Denny's for a $15 burger.
Right, exactly.
They're going for the Grand Slam.
Exactly. They want the familiar. They want the comfort food.
Yeah, and didn't they also try to revamp their image with those weird millennial-focused ads a while back?
Those were strange.
I don't know if you remember those, but they were like very strange.
Trying to be a little too hip and
Yeah.
a little too trendy.
Yeah, they just felt out of touch with the brand.
They didn't really know who they were trying to be.
Yeah, and now they're trying this whole delivery-only brand thing with like Banda Burrito and stuff.
Which, you know, on the surface, it makes sense. Everyone's ordering delivery these days.
Yeah.
But is that really going to be enough to, like, offset the losses in their core business?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for sure.
It is.
So it's not just the economy.
Yeah.
It's also a matter of identity and strategy.
Exactly. So they're kind of at a crossroads.
Yeah.
They need to figure out who they are, who they want to be, and how they're going to compete.
Yeah. And the market's definitely noticing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their share price has dropped almost 18% since this announcement.
That's a big hit.
Yeah. Investors are not feeling confident.
Yeah. That's a pretty clear signal.
Yeah.
They're worried.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, you know, what does this mean for the future of these traditional diner chains?
Right.
Like Denny's, like IHOP, like Waffle House.
Yeah.
Like these are American institutions.
They are.
You know, they've been around for decades.
Yeah.
But can they survive in a world where consumers are increasingly looking for, you know, speed and convenience
and value. And you know, something different.
Yeah.
Like they want something that feels fresh and exciting, and these older chains, they just feel a little bit stale.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for these places.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like I said, I have fond memories of going to Denny's. But is that enough to keep them going?
Right.
You know, can nostalgia alone sustain a business?
I mean, that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question that goes beyond just Denny's.
Yeah.
You know, it's a question that a lot of these older brands are grappling with right now.
Yeah.
How do you evolve
without
losing the essence
of
what made you great in the first place?
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think they gotta figure out a way to appeal to younger generations without alienating their existing customer base.
Yeah.
They gotta find a way to offer value without compromising on quality.
Yeah.
And they gotta figure out how to create an experience that's both familiar and exciting.
Yeah.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I think there's still hope for these chains.
Yeah.
But they gotta make some changes.
Yeah.
And they gotta make them fast.
Well, absolutely. All right. So there you have it, folks. Another deep dive.
Yeah.
Another look at a fascinating story in the business world.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think this one really makes you think
It does.
about, you know, the future of dining.
Yeah.
You know, what is the future?
What is the future
of these restaurants?
Yeah.
And, you know, what is the future of our relationship to food?
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to go out there and, you know, try some different places.
Yeah.
Support your local restaurants.
Yeah.
But also, you know, think about these bigger questions.
Yeah.
About where we're headed.
Exactly.
As a society.
It all starts with a grand slam.
It does.
At 3 a.m.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time
See ya.
for another deep dive.
Bye.
Bye.